ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today we have with us Mr. Frank Lehberger. He's a senior fellow here at Usanas Foundation. He's a seasoned sinologist, a multilingual translator, an author, a political analyst, and an expert China watcher, focusing on ethnic minority policies and Chinese human rights violations committed. He now works in Europe as an independent expert doing consultancy work in his field of expertise. He's fluent in 4 major languages and the author of non-fiction books on China, and he possesses strong intercultural and multilingual communication skills. He also, on numerous occasions, has proven his ability to navigate and deliver results in complex, politically sensitive, and unstable environments. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for making the time out for us today. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much for introducing me. So the first question, oops.
I'll begin right away with the question.
Yeah,
Our
okay.
audience waiting.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course, the first thing, of course, that I'll ask you to talk about is President Xi Jinping's sudden and dramatic visit to Tibet, which has captured headlines around the world, and rightly so, because it's the first official visit by a Chinese leader in 30 years. So could you tell us something about your views on what was the message that he was trying to convey through this visit?
Yeah, okay. It was intended to send a clear set of signals and to different recipients, both at home and abroad, and at the same time. So the first one, the inspection tour was planned very well in advance. So members of the Politburo now in China, they are also inspecting other provinces. And they do this for the upcoming plenum in this fall, the CCP plenum in this fall. So they all have to go somewhere in China. And then also there is next week or something like this, there's an informal gathering of all the big guys, Communist Party guys in China. They go usually to a seashore resort at a seaside. It's called Beidaihe. And in this place, they do all the bickering and scheming. They meet and beach fronts, and they have these informal gatherings, and they prepare this big plenum this fall. So this is the first thing. This was planned. They had to go everywhere, and she chose Tibet, because to ordinary Chinese, he wanted to, for them, ordinary Chinese, Tibet is something very exotic and somewhere beyond the clouds, and they don't understand it. It's part of China, but basically not many Chinese speak Tibetan or they understand this place at all. So the message for Xi to these ordinary Chinese as well is Xi Jinping is above everything. He thrones in the pristine mountains where the sky is clear, where there's no rain, and the Chinese down in China, they are drowning because there's a lot of rain and bad weather and typhoons, and thousands of Chinese drown. But this doesn't concern, because Xi Jinping is above all this. So he triumphantly shows to ordinary Chinese and also to his rivals inside the Chinese Communist Party that he has now managed to surpass the only other red pontiff before him, which was Mao Zedong. And Mao, during his lifetime, he never dared to go into Tibet. So Xi Jinping is the first one. And Mao also, he let millions of Chinese die from hunger without flinching in 1962 when he invaded India. There was a big famine in China, and 30 or 40 million of Chinese, they died from hunger. And Mao didn't bother him at all. So Xi Jinping now is sort of showing, yeah, I'm like him. And also in 1975, when Mao was still alive, there was a big flood in Henan, the same place where last week people died. And in 1975, the same thing. There was floods, and the dams were breaking, and there were 500,000 Chinese people who died in this flood. And Mao didn't say anything. So now Xi Jinping, he shows to the Chinese, I'm even stronger. I'm even more powerful than Mao. Yeah, good. So then the message to the Tibetan Buddhists. Yeah, he has a special message to the Tibetan Buddhist, which is, I am now the Red Pontiff, and you must worship me much more than any other Buddhist religious dignitary, or like the Dalai Lama of Tibet. Yeah. So how did he convey this message? He drove into Lhasa in an SUV, and he arrived in Lhasa at the train station. There's a train station, and he drove into Lhasa. The whole town was confined, but on this road, driving from the train station into Lhasa, he was flanked by two ranges of well-wishers of people. Yeah. And this was very well choreographed. And the people were not Tibetans. They were dressed as Tibetans. They were Chinese, whatever, military or police who were dressed as Tibetans, disguised as Tibetans, and who, several hundred, and they were throwing white scarves, ceremonial Tibetan scarves, on his SUV. Yeah. And this picture is, anybody who knows Tibet, who has been there, knows that only religious dignitaries who arrive in a Tibetan community, they are treated like this. They arrive in a car, and then people and well-wishers, they throw these scarves on them, on the car. Yeah? And the Chinese, yeah, there were also in 1989, the late 10th Panchen Lama, he was also like greeted like this by Tibetans. So Tibetans know this very well, but the Chinese do not know. Ordinary Chinese, they see people dressed in black throwing white things on a car. This looks like a funeral. Yeah. Because the Chinese, they don't have this cultural, the same cultural thing as the Tibetan, or they don't have the Tibetan Buddhism. So for Chinese, this looks awkward. And they associate this white things thrown on a car with a hearse or something, a symbol of mourning. So this happened in 1975, also when Zhou Enlai, the second after Mao Zedong in China, who died in 1975. He died by illness, by cancer. And then Chinese people, in a show of defiance, they made the same thing. They threw white things on his hearse. Yeah, and Mao didn't like this because Mao hated Zhou Enlai the whole life, but he needed him. So this reminds Chinese what's going on. And promptly also irreverent Chinese netizens on the internet, Chinese internet, they sarcastically asked, is this Xi Jinping's funeral? What does it mean? Yeah. So for Chinese, it's totally, it's bizarre and makes no sense. But for Tibetan Buddhists, it makes sense because Xi Jinping, he is the big pontiff. He's a religious figure now. And good. So also to the West, this shows that to the people in the West, if you look, Xi Jinping is loved by the Tibetans. What do you want? What do you have to criticize? Yeah, Xi Jinping is loved by them. Yeah, even more than the Dalai Lama. So shut up, something like this. Yeah. Okay, then the other signal to ordinary Tibetans who are not Buddhists, yeah, there are also some of those, and to ordinary Tibetans is, okay, now you have to stay at home. There's martial law everywhere in Lhasa, and stringent confinement at home. So also, this is going to happen to you if you're not towing the party line, yeah, and Xi Jinping, on his trip, he was accompanied by his public security vice minister, Wang Xiaohong, who is a big confidant of Xi. And this Mr. Wang Xiaohong, police minister like the Chinese Gestapo, he was putting a security blanket over whole Tibet. Yeah, so this is the Tibetans had to stay at home and cannot phone, you cannot do anything, you have to lie down, you cannot go to the window and something like this. So this showed to ordinary Tibetans who are not Buddhist. So we are watching you even more. Yeah? Good. Then another signal now to India, to your country, yeah, to the government of India and to the army of India. The signal to India was raw military intimidation. So why? So Xi Jinping's first stop was in Ningxi, just 100 kilometers north of the Indian border, opposite Arunachal Pradesh. Yeah, so he arrived with his plane, and then he took the train. And this train line is totally new. This is the train line from Chengdu to Lhasa. And this train line is, and this railway line is strategically important because in any military operation against India, this line will be crucial for logistics. And in 1962, you know, in the Sino-Indian War, the Chinese attacked Arunachal Pradesh and took a big chunk of overrun it because they had prepared for this for 9 months logistics, but they had miscalculated and they hadn't prepared enough. So they didn't have any railway line at that time, so they had to stop their incursion into Arunachal, and it was impossible for the Chinese army to continue in intrusion, so they had to go back. Yeah. So Xi Jinping goes there to show India, now we have a railway line. No, we don't have the problems of 1962. So yeah, and then in this Ningxi, in this southeast Tibetan place, there's also the Yalong Zangbo, this big Tibetan river who turns into the Brahmaputra. Yes, and there the Chinese are building bridges and a mega dam, and then all these water diversion schemes. Yeah, and also this is to show to India, now we control the water, the headwaters of the Himalayas. Yeah, China wants to weaponize the waters of the Himalayas against India. So this is to show India, we have a railway line and we control the waters. So so this is a subtle, not so subtle warning. Yeah. Good. And then so what else? No other Chinese Communist Party boss in the last 30, 40 years, he took so many important military people with him. Yeah. So Xi Jinping, he traveled there with the second highest military general in China. His name is Zhang Youxia, and he's the one of two Central Military Committee vice chairman of China. Yeah, and why is this Zhang Youxia, and why not the other one? Because Zhang Youxia is an old childhood friend of Xi Jinping. Why? Because their parents were friends. Yeah, so Xi Jinping and Zhang Youxia grew up together. Yeah, so Zhang Youxia is seen on a photo driving the same luxurious train carriage from Ningxi to Lhasa. And this, as a German who is very aware of our dark history, yeah, this reminds me of World War II, when Adolf Hitler is shown into his special armored railway train, luxurious railway train, codenamed America, and Hitler chatting with his generals and his second in command, Hermann Goering. Yeah, exactly same sitting. Yes, same setting. In China and then World War II. So you can see. And then arrived in Lhasa. What did he do? They had a big military gathering with all the biggest military brass in the Western Theater Command, which encompasses Xinjiang and Tibet and other places. This theater command is huge. And he met with all the main generals there. And one of those is the new and powerful military boss of this, in charge of Tibet. His name is Xu Qiling. He's featured prominently in this gathering. And he's, this General Xu is the third military boss in 10 months that she has fired and hired again in this theater command. And why did it 3 times? Because it has to do with last year, the humiliating defeat in Galwan Valley. So, good, you can see. So this is the military component. And yeah, also Xi Jinping said, we have to prepare to fight a war. Yeah, in this gathering, he said, yeah, he didn't name India, but you don't have to.
Right.
So this is basically the answer to your first question. So everything is in there. Good. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that very comprehensive answer, sir. So if I could just maybe take the India angle which you raised a little further here. So of course, we know that India-China tensions have been rising, especially after the violent clashes in Galwan. So now we know that China has been raising the Tibetan militia group, and the Indian army trains its Tibetan special forces. So do you see Tibet being sandwiched in this military contest between China and India?
Yes, but wait, I'm still optimist. Yeah. So I'm very optimist that it's not going to be sandwiched. Yeah. So because there's a problem. The Chinese do not they how to say they don't trust the Tibetans. Yeah. This I try to elaborate on this, and yeah. So yeah, Tibetan are minority persons in China. Yeah. And the Chinese are majority, and they don't trust each other. But there's a minority of Tibetans who is sort of actively collaborating with the Chinese for doing the Chinese bidding and for personal reasons, for personal gain. Yeah. So they are opportunists, basically. But the Chinese also know this, so they distrust it. And the Chinese know there are many opportunists, and they have even a name for them. And the Chinese call them Liangmianren. So this is two-faced persons. And the Tibetan have the same. There's Goniwa. Goniwa in Tibetan means two-headed persons or two-faced persons. So these Tibet is full of those, yeah. And so this is why the Chinese trying to sandwich Tibet is not going to work, because most Tibetans are not for the Chinese, not working for the Chinese. Only if coerced, or if they are opportunists, if they can get some personal gain from it. Yeah, so the Chinese know this. Yeah, and there are no Tibetans in position of power in China or in Tibet. Very few, and so if there are people in power in Tibet, Tibetan people in power in Tibet, they always have somebody who is chaperoning them or supervising them. Good. Then, yeah, the Chinese want to have Tibetans in their army, yeah, not in the militia. Yeah? The militia is something. The Chinese militia is something, a supporting role. Yeah? But they want the Tibetans in the army. Yeah, but it's also not working. They have tried for decades. I know this. I've seen it in Lhasa. they try to lure people with money, the poor people with money, and then they have to become a soldier, and then they understand this is not for them, so they drop out, or they don't go there anymore. They how to say, they don't do the full training, and they leave before they are soldiers. Yeah? So the PLA has more than 1 million, I don't know, maybe 1.5 or something million troops, but there are only one dozen of Tibetan higher officers, with the highest rank is Major General, so not even a full general. So there are a dozen Tibetan officers. Yeah? Many smaller colonels and captains and something, there are more, but high officers, there are only a dozen. And they not all of them are even in the field army. Yeah? So some officers are even just window dressing. So the Chinese, they don't trust the Tibetans. Yeah? So all these recruitment drives by the Chinese, in schools and colleges, all these years, it has not worked. But now there is a rumor. I heard something. I cannot confirm it right now. The Chinese are saying, okay, every Tibetan family has to provide one able-bodied son and send him to the army. And this guy has to go there. I cannot go. He cannot leave. Yeah. So the Tibetans don't like this, because they are discriminated against in the Chinese army. They speak Chinese, but with a very thick accent, and the Chinese make fun of them. So there is discrimination. There's racism, Chinese racism against Tibetans, and the Tibetans hate it. So there's always trouble between ethnic Han Chinese and Tibetans. So I don't think it will work, but they will do some model Tibetans, or some units where Tibetans is, and maybe they're fake Tibetans, maybe not even real ones, but just to show to India, we also have a big army unit and something like this. Yeah, but I don't think. I think it's much more show. It's a show they're doing, and they are not. Yeah, and even if many Tibetans know how to handle arms, this also becomes very dangerous, because these guys, they could revolt again. They know how to use arms. They could revolt against China. So I think it's half and half. It's half propaganda and half real.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. Okay.
Right. So I'll now thank you so much for that answer. I'll take that a little further now. Okay. So of course, you would agree with me that we live in an era where the geopolitical competition between the United States and China has intensified.
Yeah.
I would like to hear your views on how this bilateral competition is impacting the dynamics of the contest over Tibet.
Yeah. I see. Yeah. Okay. We've seen this contest already between US and China, and this geopolitical competition, but it's mainly in the South China Sea and in Taiwan Straits. Yeah? So, yeah, and sure, but it's also intensifying in Tibet. And we should not forget what's going on in Afghanistan right now. Huh? The Biden administration is pulling out suddenly last month, and everybody was astonished. Yeah? And maybe this is also linked to this decision by the Americans. I don't know. It could be linked to what's going on now in Tibet, or in South China Sea, Taiwan. So myself, I think this pulling out by the Americans is premature, but the Americans have some advantages. They're gaining some advantages by this. So why is this competition between China and US increasing now? I think it's 90% is the fault of Xi Jinping. So it's not the fault of Trump, the previous administration. It's not the fault of Biden and Blinken. It's 90% is Xi Jinping, because he's a dangerous irredentist revisionist. Irredentist is you have some places they belong to you, and you lost them and they want them back and something. Yeah, so we had many dictators in Europe, here in Germany, in fascist Italy. They were irredentist. Yeah, so Xi Jinping basically is the same person. He wants to change the current world order. Yeah, so he doesn't want also Taiwan or something, Arunachal back. Yeah, he wants also to change the world order. So this makes him very, dangerous, you could say. And let's not forget Xi Jinping. When he was young, he was a Red Guard. And what are Red Guards? They are sort of communist Taliban. Yeah? They were non-Muslim Taliban. So the Red Guards were sort of terrorists, communist terrorists. And they terrorized who? They terrorized the Chinese Communist Party higher ups. So Xi Jinping was one of these guys in his youth, and he wants to do something very flamboyant or very destructive in the international order, which they don't like anyway, the Chinese. So then Trump in 2017, he made very robust approaches vis-a-vis the Chinese actions in Tibet. For instance, he passed the American Tibet Policy and Support Act, TPSA, in just last November 2020. So this law protects freedom of religion in Tibet and freeing Tibetan Buddhists from interference and encroachment by the atheist Chinese state. They do this how? They punish Chinese officials who are involved in this interference, and they punish those officials using the global Magnitsky Act. All those in China who actively interfere with freedom of worship and religion are sanctioned according to this Magnitsky Act, so they cannot use anymore the US dollar, or they cannot have any bank account in anywhere in the world. Yeah? So this is, sadly, only one person in Tibet has been sanctioned like this, and it's the former CCP party secretary of Tibet. His name is Chen Quanguo, and he's now not in Tibet anymore. But he's the only and the first Chinese official who has been sanctioned according to this law. Yeah. So China, on the other hand, the Chinese government, they have laws telling everybody, every government official, to interfere into Tibetan Buddhism. Yeah. So they have these two laws against each other. Yeah? So the Chinese must interfere, and the Americans say you cannot interfere. Yeah? What I heard, the Americans help already Indian troops in Galwan already. They help them with training, equipment, and other non-military support. And so the Americans helped already India. So I don't know if it's true, but I heard it. Yeah. So yes, the Chinese also want Indian territory. Yeah, you know all this. Yeah, in the western, in the central, and the eastern sector of the LAC, they want this, and here also the Belt and Road Initiative (BRI) is also a very important, plays an important role. Yeah, because yeah, the railway line which I told you just before, this railway line, this would also extend to Pakistan and Central Asia. So for them, BRI is important. So they want to control everything. Yeah. So yeah, good. So then these claims on Arunachal Pradesh and on Doklam and other places, yeah, it's very dangerous. You know, so the Chinese now they have the willpower and the means to do this what they couldn't do in 1962. Yeah, and yeah, so this is, and America is already involved somehow. Yeah, and I'm sure
Right.
it's going to continue. It's good, because what the Chinese do. This is not what the Americans are bad imperialists, or they want to interfere into India or Tibet. No, this is they want to help, but the ones
Right.
who interfere are the Chinese. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that answer. And if I may just say, I definitely agree with your views on this. But I'll take the discussion a little away from geopolitics now. And I'd like to
Yeah.
know your views on the question of the succession of Dalai Lama. Of course, we know that it's no longer
Yeah.
just a spiritual matter, it's a
Yes.
deeply political question. So, could you explain how this issue is playing out between with US, China, and even India staking their claims?
Yeah. This is a very tricky question, and I can only, yeah, this is a spiritual and religious matter, and okay, I'm not, I just can, I can just make an overall assessment or overall comment. The democracies like India and US, they usually do not unduly interfere into religious matters. Yeah. So there's a claim that America has no claim. Yeah. So America and India, they both can deter China to not to interfere or abuse innocent young children who are candidates for the next reincarnation of the next Dalai Lama. Yeah. So the Chinese want to, they have a law, also a reincarnation law, and they manipulate the succession line of these Tibetan, big, important Tibetan reincarnations, not only the Dalai Lama. Yes. So India and USA can help prevent this happening when the time comes, hopefully not too soon, that Tibetans need to choose a new Dalai Lama. And it's also, it's not sure if there is a next Dalai Lama, because His Holiness, the present Dalai Lama of Tibet, has not made the decision yet. Yeah, if he's going to reincarnate, and how is he, nobody knows. Yeah, so only himself, and he has made no decision yet. So in this case, yeah, USA and India can only be instrumental to enforce that China respects the wishes of His Holiness.
Right.
In case His Holiness chooses to reincarnate, he already said that it's certainly, not sure, but it's certainly in a free country, not a country controlled by China or inside China. So then the central government in New Delhi could perhaps facilitate and protect, like special security measures, I don't know, to help Buddhist dignitaries to search for a new reincarnation, a small child inside Indian territories. Yeah. And now the geopolitical component into all this is when China somehow manages to impose a fake Dalai Lama on Buddhists. This would be a worst case scenario. And this means that Buddhist adepts and disciples in India would need to venerate a person who is influenced indirectly by communist masters in Beijing, and who are behind this fake Dalai Lama. Yeah, so they do this, of course, with ulterior motives which surpass religion. So in this regard, India regards Buddhism and the local community as soft power. So India, I do not believe that the Indian government can allow that a neighboring atheist communist party is completely controlling the Buddhist community in India. So I'm sure that this is a worst case scenario, and it already happened in now the current 11th Panchen Lama is a young person of 30 years old, and he was chosen by the Communist Party, and the Tibetan Buddhists regard him as a fake, a fake Panchen Lama. The real Panchen Lama is also 30 years old, but he's in confinement, and he's like in a prison. Yeah, nobody knows where he is. So this fake Panchen Lama is used by Beijing as a propaganda tool, and unfortunately for him, he has morphed into a willing tool of Beijing. So in my humble opinion, the Indian government should not let him anywhere near India. Yeah, in some conferences or something like this, this person is a tool for propaganda and for united front work on Buddhists. So here you can, this is the geopolitical. And then also the other geopolitical component is if China tries to annex or invade the border territories of India that have traditionally been home to large Buddhist communities and home to important Tibet Buddhist religious centers, monasteries. Yeah. There is one center which is important. There's in Arunachal Pradesh, and it's called Tawang Monastery. And Tawang Monastery is just on the border. Yeah, it's high up. This monastery is quite old, and it was the birthplace of the 6th Dalai Lama in the 17th century. So any future Dalai Lama, if he's chosen, could theoretically also be recognized from this place again, and also educated if he grows up there. And now Tawang is so close to Doklam and to Siliguri. Yeah? So you see, this is a Chinese invasion of this place would kill 2 or 3 birds in one throw. So the Tawang is a very, very important place geopolitically. It's a small town, it's on the border, but because of this history and because of this monastery, and because of the geography. These things three comes together that make it a prime candidate for Chinese geopolitical incursion or geopolitical some plot. You know, so I'm pretty sure that Taiwan, that the Chinese wanted to have it. They wanted to exchange it against something like okay, I'm not sure there. They wanted to exchange it against other places in the western area, in Ladakh somewhere, but the Indian government said no, we cannot, because Taiwan is there are people living there. Yeah, there is a monastery. We cannot give this place to you back. So yeah, the Chinese want it, and the India said very politely no. That's what I heard. Yeah, I'm not sure, and. Yeah, but the Chinese will not relent. So because this is so important geopolitically, so I'm quite sure this they want this place. Yeah. Okay, that's it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. This brings us to the end of this interview. I think we've very comprehensively covered the topics, and I'm very confident that our audience will enjoy it as much as I enjoyed hosting this session. And I
Good,
learned
thanks.
a lot. Thank you so much for your time, sir, and we look forward to hosting you again. It
Thank
was a
you.
great pleasure having you.
Thank you very much. So
Thank you
good
so much,
evening
sir.
in India.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you.